Alright, so today we're going to continue with our geometry lessons. We're going to review angle sum measurement. We're going to learn new about interior and exterior angles and how to find their measures. Copy this down. Take as long as you need to copy this down. Push pause and get this copied. Okay, so there's some important information here looking at our interior and exterior angles. So the interior angles are the ones that are highlighted in red on this figure, are the ones that are inside the triangle. So your exterior angles are the ones that are highlighted in blue and are outside. If we extend each side of the triangle, it forms an exterior angle. So something that we've already learned, but we're going to review, is the sum of the interior angles. So if you add up this angle plus this angle plus this angle, we get the algebraic expression x plus y plus z is equal to 180 degrees. Make sure you have this copied down before you continue. So here's our first example. Based on what we learned about interior angles, I know that if I add these three together, they're going to equal 180 degrees. I also know that this little box here in the corner tells me that this angle measures 90 degrees. So in order to find the measure of x, I need to create a expression or equation that does what I just said and adds my three angles together. And they equal 180. So if I combine my like terms, I'm going to combine 132 and 90. And my new expression is going to be x plus 122 is equal to 180. In order to solve for x, I need to move this 122 to the other side, so I have x by itself. So I'm going to add the opposite, which is negative 122. So I'm also going to subtract or add the opposite to both sides. This becomes 0. I don't need to write 0 down. And then I find the difference between 180 and 122. And x is equal to 58. So this measure becomes 58. One way to check that is to substitute 58 for x. So now I have 58 plus 32 plus 90. And that should, when I add them all together, equal 180. So I'm just going to do this great little column and add them all up. And I get 180 is equal to 180. Pretty simple, right? Make sure you have this copied down before you continue. And then do the next one. Okay, so here's another one, and the reasoning remains the same. You add all three together and they're going to equal 180. So I'm going to go ahead and give you a few minutes to answer the problem on your own. So my equation should be x plus 70 plus 84 equals 180. That's an 8. Alright, so here we go. So we're going to add 70 and 84 together because they are like terms. So I'm going to add 70 and 84. I can do it off to the side, or I can just do it mentally, or I can use a calculator. Either way, this becomes 154. So my new problem is x plus 154 is equal to 180. I'm going to add the opposite, or subtract 154 from both sides. That equals 0. Bring down my x. X is equal to 26. And if I were to check my work by adding these three numbers, I would end up with 180 degrees. Make sure you have that copied down before you continue. Push pause if you need to. Alright, so let's move on to the next idea, exterior angle measure. And go ahead and copy this down. So as you're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and talk about this exterior angle. Okay, so this exterior angle is labeled Z here. I'm going to label this W right now just for the fun of it. Not really. There is a purpose to it. And I'm going to draw some lines to extend out these lines here. So if I extended this line here, and if I extended this side of my triangle here, let's see if I can move them a little bit. What I do when I extend the sides of my triangle is I create another exterior angle. So this is also an exterior angle, and this here is an exterior angle. So the theory tells me that this outside measure is going to be equal to the sum of the measures of my two non-adjacent interior angles. So that means non-adjacent also means not touching. So if we're looking at angle Z, the two angles that are not touching are Y and X. So as my algebraic expression tells me, angle Z is equal to Y and X. So I could say, let's call this angle P and angle Q. That's a G. Angle G would be equal to which two angles that are not touching? Y and W. X is touching, and X and G are supplementary angles, so when we add them together, they equal 180 degrees. So if I asked what two angles would equal P, you would tell me the two that are not touching. Y is touching P, so it has to be angles X and angle W. Make sure you have this all copied down, and the words not touching next to non-adjacent, as that is key to the meaning of non-adjacent. When you're ready, move on. So we have two more examples, and here we're trying to find the measure of the exterior angle X. So I need to solve for X. And if you remember, my rule tells me that X is going to be equal to the sum of the non-adjacent. So this angle is non-adjacent, it's not touching. And neither is this one. And we know that this angle measure is 90 degrees because of the right box. So we're going to add those two together. And X is going to be equal to 130 degrees. And I can complete my check by saying that this is 130. And if I add these two together, it's 180. So I'm going to say 130 minus X equals, I lied, let's fix that. Let's do 180 minus 130. That's going to give us this measure here. Let's call it Z. So if I added 50 to 130 out here, it should also equal 180. Should be a relatively simple concept as long as you still remember how to solve multi-step equations. That's the key right there. We'll do one more example. Actually, you guys go ahead and do it. I'll write up the equation for you. X is going to equal my interior non-adjacent angles, 88 plus 47. Go ahead and solve the problem, and then check your answer. So 88 plus 47 is going to be 135. So the measure for angle X is going to equal 135. That's it.